Hello, my name is Chloe. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing to you my July wrap up where I have 20 books to talk to you about. Okay, so July was a pretty decent reading month for me. I read 20 books and finally started catching up with my reading goal for the year. In those 20 books, I read 6,737 pages, which worked out to 217 pages per day. And the average length of the books I was reading was 337 pages. Pretty standard for me, as always. However, even though I read 20 books, I didn't get a single 5-star rating. I had 2 books that I didn't rate at all. 1 1 star, 2 2 stars, 1 2.5 star, 8 3 stars, 1 3.5, 3 4 stars, and 2 4.5 stars. So no 5 stars this month. That meant that my average rating was a 3.1, which kind of sucks. So that's probably why I'm not feeling the best about this reading month. Although I can see a massive stack of books in front of me, I don't feel like I've accomplished a lot, which is silly, I know, but here we are. Also, I don't seem to have made a note on my physical versus audio split this month. The month was pretty much 50-50. I did listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I also think that doesn't motivate me as much as reading a physical book. So that could also be contributing to how I feel about the month. But let's just dive in and go over everything I read. So the first book I didn't rate was actually Sheets by Brenna Thumler. This is a graphic novel about a laundrette and ghosts. I read this for Summerween and I really don't have that much to say about it. The reason I've given it no rating is because I have finally acknowledged that I do not understand graphic novels. I liked the story behind this book. I probably would have enjoyed it written out as a full-length novel, like a middle grade novel. The pictures were really cute, but I don't really have more to say on it than that. So no rating because I'm sure it was lovely. I just do not get graphic novels. I only have 2 left on my shelf. I have 1 comic. I have Bloom, which is apparently amazing, that Victoria gifted me. And I also have the graphic novel of After by Anna Todd, which is a physical book that I enjoy that has been turned into a graphic novel. So I feel like I'll enjoy that one more, but I just need to stop. I just need to stop. If you see me asking for a graphic novel, tell me no. The second book I didn't rate that I finally finished in July is American Predator by Maureen Callahan. So this was the Chloe's Crime Scene Corner pick for what, June? Could have even been May at this point. And this follows the crimes of Israel Keyes. I found this story fascinating. I find this case fascinating, but this book did take me basically 2 months to read, and it's not even 300 pages. So there was obviously something about this book that didn't hook me. Sorry, my phone literally went off 4 minutes into filming. So yeah, there was obviously something that didn't capture my attention with this, or I just wasn't in the mood for true crime the entire time, which is definitely a lie because I was listening to true crime podcasts and watching YouTube videos. So my brain was in the true crime mindset. I just did not want to pick up this book. Saying that, I'm going to keep it. I want to revisit it again at some point. I'm glad I read it. Israel Keyes is horrific and I'd like to really re-experience this, but it didn't hit me right now. Next up, we have a contender for the worst book of the year. Has it beat The Twyford Code? I don't know. I'll Always Be With You by Monica Murphy. I'm just going to take a few minutes to insert some clips of the Patreon reading sprints I did where I was reading this book.
Slowly but surely, he calms me down, though my body still quivers. He whispers soothing words against my ear, reassuring me that I'm going to be okay, but I don't know. When it comes to what West and I share, I have no idea how I'll survive it, but I know one thing. What a beautiful way to go. Huh? Why would you, in smut, talk about your pelvis? What is this? Oh, I just read 75 pages of this. I wish I wouldn't have. I can't. I can't. We need an update on your book. I can't. It sucks. This book is bad.
So this book is I think awful. I was sent it as part of Tandem's campaign for it, their read along, so I had to try and be a little bit more reserved in Instagram reviews and Instagram stories. But now we're at the time of my wrap up. I am always an honest and transparent person. I feel like this is the time where I can really unpack what I feel about this book. So as I started this book, I said it felt very TikTok girly, and I fully agree with that to the end of my review. It's very much aesthetic, not really deep. So my first problem with this is that the writing is just not very good, objectively, in my opinion. A lot of the time the author would use very short sentences, kind of like, you know how you would use short sentences to make an impact, but they were used so frequently that it was not making an impact anymore. Like, I'm just gonna read a random, this isn't even really that relevant, a random passage, but I will take a breath every time there is punctuation. How strange. I actually feel bad for Sadie, and I don't even know her, but I can definitely relate to her. She lifts her head, her expression bleak. You really think so? I nod, offering her a smile. I have to think so. Otherwise, what do either of us have to look forward to? The writing just wasn't very good. Like, I cannot read like that for an entire book. That hurts my soul. Also, what were my other problems with it? There was no chemistry between our love interests. They meet in Paris and they absolutely hate each other, but for no reason. And then they have one amazing night. They then see each other again a couple months later when they didn't think they were going to see each other, and immediately they hate each other again. But they don't hate each other because then they end up in a cupboard. And she's saying she hates him, but her body is not acting like she hates him. So it was constantly like that. And I don't feel anything actually happened to enable these people to have a relationship. If they truly, like, it was haters to lovers, but they had no reason to hate, and I didn't feel like they were in love. And then my third and final problem with this, well, it's kind of two problems combined, is that these characters are 17 to 18 years old and they are in an American high school. I find it a little bit different being in the UK. When you are 17 and 18 particularly, you have left the education system. Yes, you might be in sixth form college or heading to uni, but you could also be in some sort of apprenticeship level job, or you could be in some sort of technical college. You are not still in high school sitting down for lessons. So having a school setting and then new adult level smut, I found quite difficult. I genuinely did think new adult class like 18, 19, 20, not when you're actually not an adult yet. So some of the things that were happening here just made me very uncomfortable. Yes, I understand that teenagers get up to stuff. I won't go too much into personal numbers, but I do understand that 17, 18-year-olds are not innocent. But reading about it in an actual filthy way made me feel uncomfortable. I should have done a whole rant review for this book. I'm sorry, please skip ahead to where I'm not holding it. But also the thing about the characters was that their sexual behavior didn't really make sense to who they were. So we start meeting Carolina and she is nobody touch me. She's very like aloof. I'm in charge, no one go near me. And West is following her like a lost puppy. You get them to take their clothes off and he becomes this like light dom, like very commanding, very in control, and she becomes very submissive. And it's like, I understand people can behave differently, but then what happens is their characters start molding into those like sexual personas, and it was really weird. Anyway, I hated this book. We're already 10 minutes, I've talked about 2 books. Next up, we're on to, what are we on to? We're on to 2-star reads. The first one I have here is The Kissing Booth #3, One Last Time by Beth Recalls. I did not like this book. I am actively angry at this book. So Beth Recalls, I met her at YALC last year. She's an absolute sweetheart. She obviously wrote the first Kissing Booth, which was followed up by Going the Distance, and that is a long distance relationship YA romance, and I absolutely love it. There are so many parts of that that really spoke to me. This one, however, the author does acknowledge it in the book. The movie was written by Netflix, and the movie was based on what happened in books 1 and book 2 and what they thought would happen as a book 3. So the movie was written and then Beth wrote the book of the movie, and oh my god, you can tell. It's just not the same. It's really not the same. I would like to think that I would have picked up on it, but just everything about it, the writing, although you could tell it was Beth's style, just didn't really feel that deep. We've also got many situations where, obviously I can't tell you too much about the story with this being the third book in a series, but we have situations where one of the characters is the most demanding, childish, selfish little idiot. And let's just put it into perspective. These books have characters at the same age. In this one, they're older. This book, we have smut. This book, we have an 18-year-old boy who gets annoyed that his friend isn't doing things with him. And that sounded deep. I mean, like literally hanging out, and isn't making time for him. Like very, very selfish, very childish, very selfish. And yeah, I could tell it was written by Netflix. Next up, 2 stars. Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. I really did not like this book. So this was the Patreon buddy read this month. And this is about a woman who sees her son stab somebody, and then she's sent back in time again and again and again to find out what happened and to stop the murder. Literally looking back on it, I can't really remember that much at all. The twists and turns that are described by many people, I feel are very obvious. So it kind of delves into the realm, again without spoiling anything, of like crime gangs and undercover police officers and things along that route. And I feel like if you have an undercover police officer, you shouldn't know who they are. And also you can't really use time and hiding what time a chapter is written in a book that is about someone time traveling, because we're gonna work it out. But anyway, I just don't feel like it was very well done, and I don't think the story was that great, so 2 stars. Next up, this one might hurt some people, but I have The Princess and the Fangirl by Ashley Poston, which I rated 2.5 stars. I didn't really enjoy this book. It's more of a me problem, I think, because I loved Geekerella, and I'm really excited for Bookish and the Beast. But this is book 2 from the Once Upon a Con series, and this is why it's going to sound so stupid of why I didn't like it. So all of these books are based around the, I can't remember what the convention's actually called. The movie's called Starfield, ExcelsiorCon. So it's based upon a convention, and like kind of a Comic-Con level convention. And in this one, we're following the main, like the lead actress of a movie who is trying to get out of the movie franchise. Her character has been killed and she's perfectly happy with that. But she's attending the convention this year, and she meets somebody who looks exactly like her and ends up taking her place in a panel discussion where she talks about saving the character. My problem with this one is, well, one, I wanted to DNF it multiple times, but I was reading it for a specific challenge, so I didn't. So I wanted to DNF it, which is why I can't even give it a 3-star, because I nearly did put this down multiple times. But also the characters just seem to have no oomph apart from at the convention, which I understand they're based at convention, but bear with me. Geekerella, I loved it, 4.5 stars, and that is heavily based in a convention. This one, they just didn't seem to have anything going for them outside of that, which, I don't know, there was no like extra plot points. I felt like I was just very bored. So 2.5 stars for this one. Next up, I really need to organize these books before I get to, so I'll do all the ones by the same author first. Okay, so we have Girls Under Pressure, Girls Out Late, and Girls in Tears, all by Jacqueline Wilson. So these are books 2, 3, and 4 of the Girls series, and yeah, they all ended up at a 3-star read. How do I hold them so that you can see them all? But these books were perfectly fine. We know that 3-star is a fine rating for me, but we're following Ellie, Magda, and Nadine as they are becoming teenagers. So in these books, they are all 13 years old, and they are experiencing problems with eating disorders, parental rules, and teenage boys. So my issue with these books, the reason I can't give them any higher and that I didn't actually enjoy them a lot of the time, is that I can't work out what age rating these are for. So the girls are 13 in all of these books, and there are so many things that happen that are very much older YA concepts. So we have things like sex and alcohol and, well, I mean, this one is literally Girls Out Late, staying out past like 11 o'clock. These characters are 13. So I didn't feel like the context really matched up with the age, but also the rest of the story and the writing didn't match up. So if we take Girls in Tears, for example, we have Ellie, who's our main character in all of them. and she is really into art and illustrating. So if I say she's into art and she's a teenager, you're expecting like those really cool GCSE art projects. But no, Ellie likes, not there's anything wrong with this, she likes drawing little cartoon characters. So this chapter is literally called Girls Cry When Their Dreams Come True, and we see this little mouse. I can't remember the mouse's name, but a really big part of Ellie's story in this is that she really wants to join a children's illustrator competition and to draw little characters, and she has Ellie the elephant and then she has this mouse. But the other main part of this story is that she's dating a year 11 while she's in year 9, and he is pressuring her to go further with him. So the concepts just don't really match up throughout the book. And also, if they're 13, what age range is this rated as? Because I don't think a 13-year-old needs to be encouraged to take things further with boys. I also don't think if you're, say, 14, 15, 16, these are written too childish. But if you're younger than 13, the contents are too adult. So I don't know. 3 stars for all of those. Next up, a book that I didn't necessarily dislike, I just didn't really get the point, was Nick and Charlie by Alice Oseman. So I read this one with all of the hype going on around Heartstopper at the moment. I've read all of the Heartstopper graphic novels and loved them, so I had this teeny tiny book on my shelves and decided to finally pick it up. So this is basically 150 pages, and it is a written out story between Nick and Charlie with some pictures involved and definitely some like text messages as well. It is based after the graphic novels, and I just didn't really care. Like I like the graphic novels. I don't know if I'm going to continue with them. It's, as I said, I don't really get graphic novels, so I was just kind of flicking through them, looking at the pictures. So I thought this was going to be my perfect like cup of tea for those. But I felt like this one had the right amount of story for a graphic novel, but didn't have enough. I understand it's a novella. Have I really got on with novellas in the past? I don't know. But I just didn't think it wasn't enough for a book, and it should have been a graphic novel, even though I don't like graphic novels. I don't know how to explain this. I didn't dislike it, it's 3 stars. I just didn't get anything extra out of this than I felt I was getting from the graphic novels. So I don't feel like it was necessary. Is it bad? No. Is it necessary? No. 3 stars. Next up, we have The Battle for Perfect by Helena Duggan. This is book 3 in the A Place Called Perfect series. I love A Place Called Perfect. It's one of potentially my favourite middle grade book out there. I did enjoy the second one, The Trouble with Perfect, and I did worry going into book 2 what they were going to do to make book 1 better. So book 1 is about a town called Perfect, where people turn up and they are given literally rose-tinted glasses which they have to wear, and everything they see is perfect. All of the behaviour is perfect. Everyone's families are perfect. But then it does turn out there is a section of the town that does not have these glasses, and they are kind of the real people of perfect. So The Trouble with Perfect, I can't even tell you what happened in that one. The Battle for Perfect, we've got like a zombie war. It's different. I gave it 3 stars because I just feel like I didn't dislike it, but it didn't feel like an extension of the Perfect series, if that made sense. So I have actually decided to just keep book 1 as a standalone. I feel like it wrapped up quite nicely, and just get rid of books 2 and 3 because I know I can reread book 1. I've read it multiple times already, but this one, there was nothing kind of pulling me back into it. I didn't feel like the story was that different to what we'd experienced already. And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like this could have been left as a standalone. Sorry. It wasn't bad. Obviously, it's 3 stars. Next up, we have The Misses by E.L. James, and we're still on 3 stars. I feel like I could have rated this lower, but really it is just a fine romance. So we're following, this is the sequel to The Mister, and we're following Maxim, who is an earl following the death of his brother, and he falls in love with his cleaner, effectively, is book 1. Something very dramatic and E.L. James style happens at the end of book 1. And in book 2, we are finding ourselves in Albania, which is where the cleaner is from. I can't even remember her name, that's so bad. We know I don't remember character names here. This story is just their love story and wedding and moving in together, working, partying, and that's kind of it. It's a very easy read. I read it in like 2 afternoons. It's quite like a decently chunky book, but it just didn't do anything special. The smut was also very boring, and for an E.L. James book, that's like not normal. You know, the Queen of 50 Shades of Grey wrote vanilla sex for a whole book, and it's kind of dull. Next up, we have You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry. This is the second Emily Henry book I've read, and I can't say I loved it. So this is about two friends who go on holiday together every year. They've then had a little bit of a break. 2 summers ago, it all goes wrong. So they've had 2 years of a break from their holiday together. They then go back on their next holiday, and it basically turns out throughout the whole story, we're going backwards and forwards in history, but it's Poppy and Alex. Poppy has a little bit of a crush and doesn't think it's returned, and that's kind of the theme of what's happening on these holidays. I gave it 3 stars because I did like the traveling aspect of it. I like reading about people going on holiday. My problem is I didn't really feel any chemistry between the 2 characters. So with the whole do they love each other, do they not, I was kind of stuck on no they don't, and wasn't really ready to accept another answer. So 3 stars. And the final 3-star book I read was Marked by PC and Kristen Cast. This is where I bend my rules, because normally a 3-star means I don't want to read it. Like, don't want to keep it, don't want to continue reading. But this is the 3rd book in a 12-book series, the House of Night series, where fledgling vampires go to the House of Night, which is a school, for a period of time to complete the change and become a vampire. This one, I feel like it's just so stereotypical of the time it was written, which is why the ratings kind of stunted, but I did enjoy it. There was nothing very profound that happened in here, nothing shocking. It was very fun. But was it good? Probably not. So I now have the first 7 of the books. I'm obviously going to continue reading them. It was a fun time. But if you didn't read these in the time that they were written, I probably wouldn't advise picking them up for the first time now. But if you are looking to dive back into something quick and easy, I feel like it does suit. Just not the best intro to a vampire series. Not the best intro to any sort of series, to be honest, in this day and age, and there are a lot of things that authors definitely wouldn't write nowadays. But yeah, I enjoyed going back into it. I'm gonna keep going with the books. I did annotate this one too. I was just trying to find something that wasn't me just saying ha next to a line, something a bit more profound. Like literally she was smelling something in a wine glass and I said, it's blood, dear, it has to be. So that's my level of annotations. A lot of underlining when things happen. But yeah, I would recommend re-picking them up if you read them before, but maybe not a good one to start now. Finally, up to 3.5 stars, we have Candy Floss by Jacqueline Wilson. This one I will not be keeping, but 3.5 stars is a very good rating for Jacqueline Wilson. So this one we're following Floss, Floss lives with her mom and her stepdad, and her stepdad gets a new job opportunity, which means he would have to live in Australia for 6 months. So the mom and her little half-brother obviously are going to go, and she presumes that Floss would go too, but she actually says that she doesn't want to, and she chooses to stay at home with her dad, who lives above a failing Greasy Spoon cafe. I think there were definitely parts of this that grated on me, because why on earth would you give a kid this old, I think she's like 10, you don't give her the autonomy to make those decisions. I'm sorry, maybe I'm like too much of a traditional parent, even though I'm not a parent. Maybe I'm too old-fashioned, but I don't think the kid gets that say, and I think a book about her amazing 6 months in Australia would have been pretty cool. But instead, we live above the Greasy Spoon cafe. We have to deal with a lot of bullying. We deal with the dad actually not saying how bad the cafe is failing, and we have changes to living arrangements, we have money worries, and we also have really cute trips to the fun fair. This one, there are quite adult themes thrown in. Well, yeah, there is a lot of violence. There's even a hospital trip at one point due to the violence, but we do also have the school bullying. So really, I think this one is a good mix. After what I've said about the girls series, I think this one's a good mix of adult and like YA and middle grade tellings. I think this one would be perfect for like my goddaughter. I think I am going to give this one straight to her. I feel like she would really like this one. She's getting into reading longer chapter books, so I feel like this one would be fantastic. But yeah, it's not perfect, definitely not perfect, but is really good for 3.5 stars. And then we have my second favorite Jacqueline Wilson book, so we're up to 4 stars. Second favorite Jacqueline Wilson ever happens to be Lola Rose. I loved this one. I am definitely keeping this one. This is about Janie, who lives at home with her mom, her dad, and her little brother. Her dad is very abusive at the start towards the mom, and it's a very traumatic experience to read about. But then one day it goes a bit too far, not that it wasn't too far already, but it goes a bit too It goes further, and the dad also starts being abusive to Janie, his daughter. So at that point, the mom decides enough is enough, and she packs up the kids and leaves. She gives everybody a new name and they start afresh. So Janie becomes Lola Rose. So a lot of this book is her adapting to her new life and a new school, new friends, and also a little brother who is being told that he has a different name now. This book then throws in very intense conversations, first obviously about the abuse at home, but then we delve into cancer, and that one was very hard to read. I didn't know it was coming, and I felt like it was very, very well done. So yeah, this one, 4 stars, second favourite Jacqueline Wilson out there. Next up for 4 stars, we have Daughter of the Siren Queen by Trisha Levenseller. Oh my god. This is the sequel to Daughter of the Pirate King, which I think I gave 4.5 stars. So this one's just slightly not as good, but 4 stars for me is a very good rating. So I don't know how much to tell you about this one, but Daughter of the Pirate King follows Alosa, who is the daughter of the Pirate King, and she is being sent on a mission, on a voyage, to find the Siren Islands, the Siren lands that are hidden and apparently have lots and lots of treasure. So this is a very good series, well, very good duology if you're looking for like female-led pirates, lots of kind of aggression and fighting, but told through a YA lens. There is also, especially in the first book, and without spoiling anything in this one, there is a enemies to lovers romance that in a YA I believe is done very, very well. And yeah, I would fully recommend this duology. I feel like it's a really easy time to read. We have a very basic little map, but it's just the cutest thing. And yeah, I loved reading all about, in this one, the voyages. The little magical powers moment was very, very cool. And yeah, solid duology. We're in the last 3 books now. I promise this will be over soon. The final 4-star book I have is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerri Maniscalco, which I actually loved, but I can't give 5 stars. So this is a book about, what's her name? Audrey Rose, who is training as an apprentice to her uncle, who is a, I don't know what you even call them, like an autopsy person. The writing in this is absolutely fabulous. I annotated it. We have like my writing, we have highlightings, we have tabs, we have everything. I absolutely loved the writing. Like just this one line. I could tell Uncle was having a difficult time restraining himself from doing the deed. Corpses kept him company most nights, like intriguing textbooks. He cherished dissecting them and discovering the secrets held between the pages of their skin and bones. The writing was absolutely fabulous. So we are actually in this book trying to find out the identity of Jack the Ripper. And that reason is why I can't give it 5 stars, because I feel like it was so obvious from pretty much chapter 1 who Jack the Ripper was going to be. And you start thinking, well, surely it's not going to be them because that is too obvious. And no, it is obvious. So that's the thing that stopped me giving it an amazing rating. If I would have been shocked by the reveal, instant 5 stars, but the writing was absolutely immaculate. I can't believe I left this unread on my shelf so long, and I can't wait to read more from this author. So here we go. There are 2 books that a lot of people knew I was going to be reading this month, and it is those 2 books which have made it to 4.5 stars reviews. The first one is The Bride Test by Helen Huang. So this follows Kai, who is an autistic Vietnamese man, and he is living perfectly happily by himself until his mother comes along and says she has found him a woman in Vietnam, and she's going to be flying Esme in to his house where she will live and become his wife. So very much a clash of traditional Vietnamese culture and like American culture in this one. This is a really, really solid romance. I feel like the first time I read it, I loved this more than I loved The Kiss Quotient. On reread, I had to stop it at 4.5 stars. It wasn't perfect, but I did really like it. There were a lot more cultural elements to this rather than the romance smuttiness of The Kiss Quotient. There's a lot of this about being an immigrant to the US for romantic reasons, which I found very interesting. and really did enjoy. I'm not sure if they just wanted to avoid using the phrase 90 Day Fiancé, but it was definitely a 90 Day Fiancé kind of situation, and they have until the end of the summer to get married, or Esme has to leave and go back to Vietnam. It was really, really good. I keep like being down on it because I couldn't give it 5 stars, but I did give this 4.5 stars. It's a very, very good romance. I did tab and annotate with my full thoughts, and I'll be doing a live show with some lovely creators maybe it's already gone live. I don't know when this video is going up, or it might be next weekend. Whenever it is, I'll either tag the live show so that you can set a reminder in the description, or it will be there so that you can watch it back. But yeah, did enjoy this one. And finally, it is no surprise to everyone that this book made it top of the list this month, even though it's my least favourite of this series. We have New Moon by Stephanie Meyer being book 2 in the Twilight saga, and yeah, it's definitely my least favourite Twilight. I did tab it fully with my thoughts. We have all the tabs, we have all me drawing hearts around things and getting very excited. Can I tell you much about this book? Is it too soon to be spoiling Twilight? But the summaries in these books are fantastic. There's always a little summary in these editions at the start that says, when the Cullens, including her beloved Edward, leave Forks rather than risk revealing that they are vampires, it's almost too much for 18-year-old Bella to bear, but she finds solace in her friend Jacob until he is drawn into a cult and changes in terrible ways. Fantastic, right? The middle section of this book, and everyone who's read it will know what I mean by the middle section, really dragged, and I just wanted to get back to my baby. My first ever fictional crush had to come back. But yeah, I've read this many times in my life. I definitely tabbed many, many, many things. Not as much as in Twilight, but quite a lot. I don't really have much more to say on this one. It's Twilight and I loved it. Let's move on. I say move on. That is all of the 20 books that I read this month. This is going to be a sucker of a video to edit because this is long and this is a lot of thoughts. But thank you for bearing with me. If you watch this entire wrap up, leave me a shark emoji because I want to know who got here, because that is impressive. You are dedicated avocado gang at this point. Yeah, I'm not going to bore you for much longer. Tell me your favourite book from July. I'd love to know what you read. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.